Thank you very much, Teresa. First of all, the slide. Now it's coming, and this one is working?
That should work, or this one.
Yeah, well, I will walk around.
Okay, so just get close to it.
Yes, I give it a try. Thank you very much. And in the second part of our session, we now want to present you some more information about the second survey, about the researcher survey. Specifically, we want to look at the acceptance and use of data infrastructures. And therefore, we ask the question, what drives the acceptance and use of data infrastructures? For our analysis, we developed an acceptance model for data infrastructures, which you can see over here. This model analyzes 4 different factors that affect the usage behavior of data infrastructures, either directly, for example, facilitating conditions, or indirectly via attitude or behavioral intention to the usage behavior. Our model is based on the unified theory of acceptance and use of technology. Maybe some of you may know Venkatesh. He's pretty famous in behavioral science. But if you don't know him, now's the time. Doesn't matter. And Venkatesh defined 3 important factors that affect the use of new technologies, which are performance expectancy, social influence, and facilitating conditions. Performance expectancy, first of all, refers to the... I can go in front, doesn't matter. Performance expectancy refers to the power or benefits that users receive when using a new technology. Social influence refers to the experienced social pressure when using a technology or for using a new technology, and facilitating conditions refer to the expected organizational or technical support received for using this new technology. However, in the literature, this unified theory is often criticized for neglecting psychological factors. And therefore, we integrated the psychological factor hedonic motivation on the second level on the left side into our model. And this hedonic motivation refers to the joy or the flow experienced when using a new technology. And in our analysis, we now take a look at these 4 factors on the left. The results of our past analysis show that all relations except the direct relation between facilitating conditions and usage behavior, as well as the direct effect on hedonic motivation on attitude, are relevant, or in scientific context are significant. Which means, first of all, our model is valid, and second, that all 4 factors we considered are important for the acceptance and use of data infrastructures. However, the question remains, which of these factors is the most important? And therefore, we calculated the so-called effect sizes, which you can see here on this slide. Generally spoken, the higher the effect size, the more important the factor. And the most important factor in this case is the performance expectancy, which means that providers of data infrastructure should foremost focus on the power and the efficiency of their service or infrastructure provided. The second important factor is hedonic motivation, which means that during the development phase of this technology or this infrastructure, it should also be considered that this infrastructure, well, makes fun to use, it is easy to use, and that researchers who use this infrastructure can get into something like a flow when using it. And the two least important factors are facilitating and social influence, which might be assessed by providing, well, for example, trainings, supportive information, something like that. It doesn't mean they are unimportant. Please don't get me wrong. However, the most important factors for researchers to accept new data infrastructures are the performance and the hedonic motivation to do so. Thank you very much for your attention. I think we are now back in time.
Yeah, I was going to. Okay, so I guess I will pass the mic to Inge van Nieuwenpoel. I said that right.
It's okay.
Okay.
I'll do it here. Yeah, so to continue on the subject, what do we learn from this? What did we see in the surveys that we did, and how should we go forward? And this is from a point of view from someone who is not a survey expert, just to say that, just out of what we saw in the project and what we see that will come up later on. We said it already many times before, too many surveys. I was surprised that just a few people said that they thought there were too many surveys. I get almost every week surveys in my mailbox. It's really impossible to answer them. Some of them you solicit a bit yourself because you're interested in the subject, and on some website you indicated, yes, you can contact me, and then you are bombarded with mail. So that's one thing, but many more are actually interesting surveys, but you don't have the time to take them up. And the low response rate, we really saw that in the researchers' survey. So at Ghent University, we are not allowed to send big mailings to our personnel on these kind of surveys. We need to use the newsletters. But that's, first of all, how many of the researchers really read the newsletter? And certainly open an item on a survey, that just didn't happen. And that is what we saw. There was just a few answers from our researchers. So that is not the way to go to find data. No responses at all is even worse than maybe a biased one. I don't know, but it's certainly nothing that you can use. So how can we overcome this dilemma? And these are the next few slides are just some thoughts. It's like said, it's not based on research across many studies or whatever. It's just based on what we have done. So the hurdles that we saw is, first of all, GDPR. So I don't know how it is in your institution, but in ours, they really take this very seriously, and we'll do that everywhere, but very narrow, sometimes very narrow, like how we can set up mailing lists. So there is a way to address all the people in one mail, all the researchers in one mail with the general mailing list, but this is only used occasionally for very important things. So clearly not for a survey like on EOSC or whatever. So that is not possible. But on the other hand, we used to have like mailing lists that we could set up ourselves, you know, the list servers that you might have in your own university, lists.ugent.be in my case, and where you have lists of 100 to 200 people or something that you want to address. Now, in these times, it's even like that for the newsletter, you are even not allowed to put all the researchers into this mailing list. They have to subscribe, which is for me a bit strange because, this is a side note, newsletters from the university, they provide information on your organization that you should know. So why is it voluntary to subscribe to a newsletter? But GDPR wise, you're not allowed to do that. So it certainly doesn't make surveying easier, these GDPR rules and addressing the people. And then there are internal university rules on communication. As in many organizations, our researchers have a flood of emails in their mailbox. And they complain a lot about administrative burden and too many mails coming from central university administration and et cetera, et cetera. So the internal communication rules are really that, and for many things, we cannot address ourselves, the researchers. We have to go through some official channels. So again, that is quite a bottleneck to overcome. You have to make clear why you want to do that, but even then it's not good. And then you have the COVID period. We already addressed that. People got fed up with all the surveys coming up. I have been filling out for 2 years surveys around how are you feeling? Do you have any symptoms and all these kind of things? Because out of interest, like I want to feed the research and that is really something that you want to do. But there were many surveys like that, and then you have surveys on how it affects your work and everything, and people got fed up, so they don't like that either. There's also the question of the academic year. How is it organized? So when do you send out a survey? So at first, I think it was like in the beginning of summer that we wanted to do it, or in the end of the spring, I don't remember. For us, that is a really bad period to send out surveys, but even then, we did it at the beginning of autumn, at the start of the academic year. That apparently wasn't a good period either. So what is a good period in the academic year? That there is no, I think. See Luciana laughing. But there are worse and not so worse periods to send out surveys. In our case, I'm afraid that for many researchers, the subject is a bit too abstract. It's a bit like, this is far from what I'm doing, not interested, oh, maybe I'll look at it later and then forget. And there's the email black hole. So I don't know about you, but sometimes I have that as well, emails just disappearing into the black hole of my mailbox. And this is certainly the case with surveys. So these are a few of the hurdles that we experienced during, as someone who is not experienced with surveys, these were the most striking ones. And then we started looking, what can we do about this? And these are just a few takeaways that I take with me for future surveys. You really have to define the survey purpose as appealing and align with the daily work, your daily work or the daily work of the researcher. Like, and what is a subject line? What is your subject line? Please fill out the survey about maybe might not help, but it could be very appealing. Do you want to, how do you say that? Do you want to make your research more visible, but it's not even sexy enough? So you need like a good title, and I'm afraid that many of us maybe are not so good in finding these appealing subjects. You need a bit of experience in that. And then the appropriate audience. Who do you address? Now, what we certainly in the researcher survey, we really wanted to hear from all researchers from different backgrounds, different stages in their career, etc. But what we see a lot in like big surveys among communities is that you make a pool of people. Maybe that is better to like stiekproef. So that you have like a sample that you use. Maybe that is a better way to go. What we definitely need to avoid in the realm of fair data in EOSC is different surveys with similar questions, duplication of questions, all these kind of things. And I'm afraid that has been the case in the last few years. So we really, I think we have to try to avoid it. And then you come back to what Theresa said about aligning surveys or having, maybe a central hub is a bit difficult, but really alignment on surveys and to make sure that we don't overload that. What I sometimes find difficult is to avoid jargon. So there are so many acronyms in our world, too many acronyms. And I can see that when new people come in our university, like we have a data steward team now since almost 3 years, but there has been some changes and people coming in. And every time, even now that we have a meeting and we start talking about something, there's always someone saying, what does that mean? And these are people that are working on this subject. So, and then think about the researchers. How can we avoid the jargon? How can we make it clear? It's sometimes really stepping out of your comfort zone to do that. So that is certainly something that we have to keep in mind. And then, and that's also something that, for example, we saw in different surveys before you launch, you need to make the questions available in a PDF, in something that you can work on outside the survey tool. Because certainly when I look at surveys now for the EOSC Association, for example, or in the partnership of EOSC, there are several people that you need to involve to fill out a survey. Then you really need good tools to do that outside of the survey tool to make it easy to gather the information. And that is something that Theresa also brought up. It's provide the code you used for data analysis. That is what we try to do here is, okay, you got all this data and you promise to send out the results and you do that. But how do you get to those results? What is your method? And certainly in our open world, in open methodologies and stuff like that, it is important to provide the code. How did you analyze these results? Now, if you look at the future, there are still many projects coming up, but we see a lot of surveys coming up in the context of the EOSC ecosystem and the partnership. Think of the AAP, the additional activities plan, think of the KPIs survey and I don't know what, and that's not even on the researchers level, that's just on a higher level. How is a country doing? What is an organization doing in the context of EOSC? But I'm highlighting this one because that is ongoing now. In the EOSC future, an EOSC observatory is being developed, and the first step is to build this tool around the survey for the member states. So, what are the member states doing in the context of EOSC? What is their financial contribution? Volker already talked about that on the first day. What is EOSC readiness in the countries? There is a policy intelligence tool, as they call it, in development, and it's like a mapping exercise. So there. A big thing, I'm involved in the EOSC Future, I'm involved in this observatory, and we really want to take this message that I provided before, like aligning surveys and making sure that we don't ask the same questions on several levels several times. And so I knew this would happen. Yeah. Okay, let's drink something. So this policy intelligence tool, it will conduct a mapping exercise and engage on high level with the member states, so that you have like an alignment on the different surveys and that you can see an evolution and that you have a mutual learning effect out of the observatory. Oh, sorry. Oh, very terrible. Oh, okay. No, it's okay. Now it's gone. So And there, one of the purposes is also to have a mutual learning effect. So the observatory and the survey is not only out there to gather the results of what are you doing, it's really to engage in a conversation on where can we help each other, how do you do it in your country. I see that for open data, for example, you have a high share of open data. I'm just saying something. How do you do that? And this is really something that we need to foster. It's not a tool to measure, or surveys to measure, but really to strengthen cooperation and to exchange views and exchange information and exchange best practices. There are several EOSC monitoring domains. So there is the domain of the EOSC readiness in the member states, and then there's the EOSC partnership, and there's the EOSC ecosystem, and you have several kinds of surveys on different levels, and you need to make sure that these don't overlap. And that is exactly what the observatory wants to do. And then we'll see what comes next and how it will develop. So the main thing is, this is just one thing that I take out. This is the observatory. But in the other, the new projects that have started now, or that are coming just, that will start soon, we'll have to make sure that the alignment across surveys is certainly kept in mind, and that we keep an overview of that. There is quite a job there. I don't know exactly who's going to do that, but it will be like a community effort, I suppose. But I don't see any central body at the moment. So to conclude, that was what I wanted to conclude here. Still, we'll have quite some work to get this aligned, but they can be. We need this data to support the development of EOSC and how we work in the different countries, in the different organizations across research infrastructures. So don't click away when you get a survey from EOSC, I would say, but try to fill it out.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. Now we go in a little bit earlier into our break. Our next session starts at 11. So please enjoy the small free time you have. Thank you.
Which provides a framework for aggregating metadata from heterogeneous and distributed data repositories and align the metadata of these repositories with the DCAT model to publish them in the end into an instance of the FAIR data point reference implementation that has been developed with one of our collaborating projects, the FAIR is FAIR project. The FAIR data point constitute a centralized and harmonized metadata catalog and contribute to the improvement of the verification of the different repositories within the project without requiring any change. This first version of the federated FAIR data space has been delivered in September 2021 and is currently being extensively tested by the different use cases in the project to enrich and transform their metadata content. After designing the index of ontological concepts, we are currently implementing a first version to integrate this index into our federated FAIR data space to allow the enrichment of metadata with ontological material. We are continuously improving the federated FAIR data space with the feedback from the different communities and testers. We also continue to work on aligning and providing services and infrastructure support for the community demonstrator within the projects. We worked on establishing guidelines for integrating some of these services into EOSC. We are aiming to provide a finalized version with registered data repositories from the different communities. We are also expecting to have integrated previously unconnected service into the EOSC ecosystem. We will provide a proof of concept of a multidisciplinary search engine to find concepts from semantic artifacts that is built upon relevant community resources. We will also release an Anthroportal instance that will store all the semantic artifacts from the communities in Pillar that were not easily accessible. We will provide a set of services that are integrated with Common AI, and we will provide an extended set of ready-to-use infrastructure services, such as D4Science virtual research environment, dedicated and improved Galaxy workflow services, and more.
La féerisation des données, qui, si je me rappelle, signifie findable, accessible, interoperable et reusable. Ça a un impact tout à fait positif, ne serait-ce que pour créer des outils à destination de la recherche, mais aussi des outils pour les étudiants.
J'ai créé avec des collègues une base de données bilingue avec des textes en langue amérindienne de l'époque coloniale jusqu'au début de l'époque républicaine. On a réussi notre pari, à savoir de faire une base de données utilisable par des personnes qui ne sont pas dans le noyau qui a créé cette base.
C'est exactement le rôle de ce bibliothécaire du temps de ma thèse qui allait voir les chercheurs et qui lui disait « s'il vous plaît, ramenez les livres pour que tout le monde puisse les utiliser ». Donc le premier impact pour moi, c'est celui-là, c'est d'amener les collègues à partager.
Et j'ai commencé à mettre la version PDF sur HAL, ne serait-ce que pour le signalement, mais aussi pour la récupération des données elles-mêmes. Mais c'est vrai que pour les collègues dans le domaine de l'histoire littéraire, ce qui compte, c'est l'édition papier.
Nous sommes dans un lieu où parfois encore il y a une forme de personnalisation qui peut être assez aiguë de résultats que l'on a acquis et que l'on n'a pas envie de partager trop vite.
Ce qu'il faut comprendre, c'est que par le partage de données, quand c'est bien déposé, que les métadonnées sont bien enregistrées, etc., nous, en tant que créateurs de la donnée, on n'est pas effacés. Au contraire, notre présence, elle est affirmée.
Dire qu'on a travaillé sur des données qui sont inaccessibles, ça veut dire qu'on n'a pas travaillé. Vraiment, l'exigence chez nous de reproductibilité en maths et en stats et en informatique, elle prend des proportions très importantes.
Il y a ce paradoxe, il y a ce double tranchant, d'un côté d'une nécessité d'ouverture et puis d'autre côté, attention, vie privée.
Si on garde les données pour nous, en fait, il ne se passera pas grand-chose. Le fait de rendre tout de suite les textes accessibles, ça a encouragé nos collègues historiens de nous envoyer leurs textes, donc d'enrichir notre base. Nous, on leur traduisait et on le mettait en ligne. Du coup, c'était d'emblée partagé.
Tout le monde refait tout le temps le même travail parce que c'est pas fait de la même manière et surtout parce qu'on ne sait pas de quelle manière c'est fait.
Tout l'enjeu en fait pour les arts de la scène, c'est de définir ces champs de description pour ensuite pouvoir exploiter cette information sur le plan scientifique.
Comment on repense les corpus que l'on fait? Qu'est-ce que d'autres vont pouvoir faire avec mes données? Et donc, les préparer d'une certaine manière.
On a dû se mettre d'accord sur un certain nombre de données que nous voulions voir dans cette base de texte. Il a fallu aussi se mettre d'accord sur ce qu'on appelle les métadonnées, c'est-à-dire les éléments qui permettent de décrire les textes que nous mettons dans la base de données.
Plus on va donner d'éléments de contexte, plus on va donner des éléments pour comprendre comment ces données ont été construites, plus, à mon sens, elles vont être réappropriables.
Je ne me fais pas trop de soucis sur la pérennité des données. On réfléchit à ça. On a le PDF Archival qui est complètement stable. On a le PET format CSV qui est increvable.
Les SHS, c'est plus problématique parce que les données ont besoin de plus de contextualisation. Il y a des questions d'homogénéité dans le temps, dans l'espace, notamment lorsqu'on travaille sur des données tantôt non.
On a une masse de textes. Je crois que si on réfléchit dans la perspective faire, on peut négocier à commencer par certains textes, à continuer avec d'autres. Et cela nous amènera plus rapidement, collectivement, à cet objectif d'une bibliothèque qui serait requêtable par tous, qui serait exploitable par tous.
Il y a d'autres aspects qui sont ceux du danger d'une forme de standardisation trop prononcée qui, justement, tendrait à ne recourir qu'à des métriques, qu'à des formes d'indexation strictement quantitatives ou strictement logiques, en négligeant l'ensemble de ce qui est qualitatif, qui est une part irréductible des données en sciences humaines en général et en psychologie en particulier.
S'il y a des règles, des standards sur les contenus, il n'y en a pas sur la façon dont on les traite ou comment on arrive à faire ce qu'on fait aux données. Donc il y a toute une partie de notre travail qui mérite d'être observée, décrite et formalisée.
C'est-à-dire quand on écrit, quand on collecte des données, d'avoir un protocole de recherche explicite, écrit et compréhensible.
Il y avait un devoir de trouver le moyen de pouvoir diffuser des connaissances très brutes, très liées au travail, pour en faire des synthèses. Ça me semble extrêmement important, que les données deviennent simplifiées, transformées, accessibles.
On va véritablement moins surreprésenter le travail de recherche comme une quête solitaire d'une vérité plus ou moins saisissable, pour beaucoup plus un travail collectif.
On a mobilisé les compétences d'historiens, de philologues, linguistes et d'anthropologues. Un projet de base de données de cette ampleur-là ne peut pas se faire sans une équipe pluridisciplinaire. Et c'est justement parce qu'elle est pluridisciplinaire que la donnée est la plus partagée d'une certaine manière et qu'elle devient la plus interopérable possible.
Je pense que l'affairisation des données, ça va contribuer aussi à rendre réutilisables nos données et à les rendre visibles.
D'une manière générale, partager les données est devenu quand même, surtout pour les jeunes générations de chercheurs, une priorité, une prise de conscience.
Je pense qu'il faut continuer à organiser des stages, à organiser des rencontres au niveau, pas seulement européen, mais international.
Donc je pense que c'est une forte opportunité pour se pencher vers des directions nouvelles. Et ça donne envie, en fait. Voilà.
Pour moi, une donnée dans mon champ de compétences, c'est tout d'abord un document qui est issu des arts de la scène. Donc ça peut être tout type de documents, des captations audiovisuelles, des écrits de théâtre, des carnets de mise en scène. Cela devient une donnée à partir du moment où je décris le document selon un schéma de métadonnées que j'ai défini au préalable.
Une donnée en archéologie, c'est une information qui caractérise un fait archéologique, qu'il soit immobilier ou mobilier.
En sciences politiques, une donnée, traditionnellement, par l'image de la discipline, ça a été typiquement des résultats électoraux, des résultats de sondage. Une réponse à une question, c'est une donnée qu'on traite au quotidien. Mais aujourd'hui, c'est bien plus que ça. En sciences politiques, les données, c'est tout. C'est du texte, c'est des mots, c'est des traces sur le web, c'est des observations. Donc, la diversité des données est aujourd'hui absolument incommensurable.
Une donnée, elle est codifiée de différentes façons. On peut la retrouver sous forme de quantité, sous forme d'informations qualitatives.
Les données qualitatives et les données quantitatives, elles se rejoignent par le fait qu'on ne peut pas les produire a posteriori.
Pour moi, c'est plutôt une source. D'ailleurs, en général, le plus souvent, c'est une carte. C'est une carte déjà existante. C'est très rare que j'utilise des premières mains.
Pour un archéologue de terrain, une donnée de terrain, c'est ce qu'il transcrit immédiatement, sous une forme ou sous une autre. Mais, dans certains cas, des résultats déjà traités préalablement peuvent redevenir des données.
Les publications sont des données dans le sens qu'on peut les classer avec des données, on peut les cataloguer, on peut les étudier, mais ce qu'on met dans les publications sont des données.
Dans le domaine plus particulier des statistiques dans lesquelles je travaille moins. Une donnée, c'est observer un phénomène dans le temps ou pas, dans l'espace ou pas, de s'intéresser, je ne sais pas, à l'âge, au salaire, à la composition d'un réseau social à un moment donné dans le temps, ça fait aussi une donnée.
C'est la manière de rendre compte d'observations qui sont réalisées sur le terrain, qui sont toujours des observations qui rendent compte d'objets complexes qu'il faut réussir à construire sous une forme qui est transmissible à la communauté scientifique.
Quand je mets ma casquette humanité numérique, la donnée, c'est beaucoup plus vaste. C'est aussi observer ce que mes collègues font. C'est aussi un site web, c'est le schéma des données. C'est aussi l'utilisation d'un particulier logiciel et comment on utilise un logiciel, c'est une donnée. Et la chaîne éditoriale, c'est une donnée.
Les métadonnées, finalement, c'est aussi des données. Donc, on renseigne la façon dont sont produites les données, dont on peut utiliser ces données.
Ce passage à la donnée numérique, ça oblige à se poser vraiment des questions sur la manière déjà dont on formalise l'information.
En maths, un ensemble de données, ça va être un tableur Excel dans lequel on a essentiellement des valeurs numériques ou des valeurs nominales, puis par extension, sur tout ce qui est numérisable. On travaille sur des images, sur du son.
L'utilisation d'orthophotos réalisées en drone va permettre de suivre l'évolution de la recherche sur le terrain et va faciliter la documentation sur le terrain. C'est un gain de temps aussi considérable avec des images en très haute résolution.
Dans mon cas, les données vont être principalement textuelles. La donnée va se placer à différents niveaux, soit au niveau le plus bas, on va dire, qui est pour moi celui du mot, et parfois je peux aller jusqu'au niveau du texte en entier qui va constituer la donnée.
Dans mon champ expérimental, qui quand même touche de très près au corpus linguistique, une donnée, c'est un texte. Ce texte doit être proposé à la lecture.
En anthropologie historique des langues amérindiennes, le mot, les morphèmes, la phrase et le souffle. Ce sont mes données de base que je vais traduire et je vais essayer de voir l'effet de signification d'un même mot dans différents contextes phrastiques, de paragraphes, de textes, de situations historiques.
Donc des données, on en est entouré. Et après, suivant les casquettes, suivant les métiers et les activités qu'on a, on va les traiter, on va les considérer différemment.
La donnée, c'est un domaine très vaste et très vague. Et ce n'est pas facile à définir.
Political scientist, I'm already working for almost 10 years in the area of open science. We are collecting research data and making those available as a public good. Open science gives society a direct access to knowledge, and knowledge is, as you know, power, and power should be as evenly distributed as possible in a democratic society. An example of an open science project that we are currently working on is the Austrian Corona Panel project. In the project, we are collecting survey data on the impact of the corona crisis. We make the results and the data available to political decision makers as well as to citizens. And the results are verifiable for everyone. And in this way, we contribute to a knowledge-based and democratic way of crisis management. Open science occupies me in my everyday working life in the context of higher education. I work for Open Education Austria Advanced, which is a project to promote open educational resources, or shortly OER. Open science and open education open the access to knowledge to everybody. And the open educational resources are a key factor in that process. They promote the exchange of ideas and can help coming up with new ideas. Higher education can be shaped jointly and transparently, and therefore the access to knowledge can be opened up for everybody. Within our project, among other things, we develop a specialist portal for these open educational resources. The open educational resources can be shared, uploaded and downloaded, and therefore can reach a large number of students way beyond lecture halls or national borders.
As manager of a data archive, I work on providing the infrastructure for open science, to collect, to curate, and to make available research data, so that researchers, but also the public, can find and reuse data. The collection of data is very time-consuming and expensive, and the problem is that data is only often used for one research question or for one project. And through the movement of open science, we can make this data available and make it possible for much more information to be extracted from the data and to benefit society. Open science also means that the research process is transparent and public, and that the data that form the basis of political decisions are open to everybody. A data set that is very important to researchers, politics, but also in general the public is the microcensus. So this is data on, for example, employment or education in the Austrian population. This data is very rich and very extensive and can be used for many projects and many research questions. Through the movement of open science, we can make this data available for researchers free of charge, and ultimately this benefits society again.
Open science is transforming research, teaching, studying, and science in general. Open science means that we jointly develop and exchange knowledge, and that knowledge becomes even more accessible. Open science fosters that we jointly develop and exchange knowledge for the benefit of everybody. You can benefit from this opening either directly by participating in the production of scientific results, or indirectly, because we incorporate such scientific findings into science, economy, culture, or society in general, for the better of everybody.
EOSC is being implemented as an open, reliable ecosystem for research, which allows sharing of services and research outputs across different user communities, so as to increase their visibility and their composition with other resources. How can you share your resources and enable composability with other resources? By making them available through the onboarding into one of the EOSC portal recognized catalogs, and by publishing into the associated marketplaces, which interoperate in the EOSC ecosystem. In this video, we are using the EOSC portal as an example for the onboarding process. The EOSC-Pillar project supports the onboarding of services into the EOSC portal catalog in close cooperation with the EOSC flagship project, EOSC Future. The resources made available through the EOSC catalogs and marketplaces are reliable and robust. This is one of the added values of the EOSC ecosystem. How can the EOSC ecosystem ensure reliability and robustness? During the onboarding process, resources are assessed against inclusion criteria derived by the EOSC rules of participation. The evolution of the ROPS is discussed and agreed within a specific task force set up by the EOSC Association, where the main stakeholders, including research communities, are represented. Inclusion criteria contain various technical requirements. As an example, a prototype of a service must be demonstrated in an operational environment, which means that the technology readiness level, TRL, should be at least 7. The fulfillment of these technical requirements ensure the quality of resources. Quality is granted through different actions: validation, during the onboarding process, and auditing, performed by the onboarding teams of the catalogs to ensure that quality is maintained over time. Users can provide feedback to ensure that resources address users' community needs. When a provider wants to onboard a service in an EOSC catalog, as first thing they register as a provider in the EOSC portal. The onboarding team evaluates the resource, assessing the compliance with the inclusion criteria, like, for example, if the resource is mature enough to be included in the EOSC portal catalog. When this evaluation process is successful, the resource is published in the EOSC portal catalog and marketplace. If a resource does not comply with all the inclusion criteria, the onboarding team contacts the service provider to try to fix the issue. If it is not possible, the application is rejected. If at a later stage the service provider is able to meet the inclusion criteria, they can apply again for onboarding the previously rejected resource. The onboarding team periodically verifies that the resources in the catalog and marketplace are still compliant with the evolving rules of participation and inclusion criteria. This is the audit activity. If a resource is no longer compliant, it will be deactivated on the catalog and marketplace. By joining EOSC portal, you get important benefits. If you are a user through the EOSC portal marketplace, you can find reliable resources facilitating your research. If you are a provider, the EOSC portal catalog and marketplace will help advertise your resources and services and will therefore increase their recognition. We encourage service providers to onboard their resources through the EOSC portal or into one of the EOSC recognized catalogs, and researchers to browse the EOSC marketplaces and pick up the resources best suited for their work. European Open Science Cloud, the main initiative of the European Commission to promote open science and support research in Europe.
We are creating a European Open Science Cloud now. It is a trusted space for researchers to store their data and to access data from researchers from other disciplines.
The EOSC Association was created in 2020 to provide a single voice for advocacy and representation for the broader EOSC stakeholder community. Promote the alignment of European Union research policy and priorities with activities coordinated by the association. Enable seamless access to data through interoperable services that address the entire research data life cycle, from discovery to storage, management, analysis, and reuse across borders and scientific disciplines. Currently, more than 200 institutions spanning over 27 countries are members or observers of the EOSC Association. EOSC aims to make it easier to find, access, and reuse research data, tools and services by connecting digital infrastructures to provide seamless access to research data and services for the scientific community. This goal will ultimately be achieved by providing an environment where European researchers from different scientific disciplines and countries can work together more efficiently. This web of research data and services will make research more innovative and impactful. This rich ecosystem is being implemented through several projects funded by the European Commission, which work together for the common goal of getting EOSC ready to foster fairness of data and services. Possible tools to connect to EOSC are accessible through the EOSC portal, where providers can register their resources into the EOSC portal catalog. These resources are then made available to prospective users through the EOSC marketplace, where researchers can find resources suitable for their needs. EOSC will have a different value for different actors. EOSC will offer to providers, infrastructures, and researchers the framework and tools to enable sharing, discovering, and accessing the resources in the research ecosystem. Resources can be composed to provide new added value services. A good example of this is the COVID-19 activity, where specific services allowed daily epidemiological data to be made available to all scientists for multiple analyses. As a further step, EOSC core services will allow their integration into automatic analysis pipelines to feed predictive models of major importance for governments to assess the impact of public health interventions. For researchers, the main benefit will be the possibility to find resources suitable for their research activity and combine them with resources delivered by different resource providers. For service providers, the main values will be the possibility to increase the visibility of their services or resources and to more easily allow for their composability with other services, thanks to the EOSC interoperability framework. The benefit of joining the EOSC development for e-infrastructures and research infrastructures is triple. It is the possibility to, firstly, to increase the visibility and usability of the services provided by the infrastructure. Research is about providing and sharing results, demonstrating ability to offer services at the European scale. Secondly, being part of the EOSC landscape is an important aspect to receive future funding, both from the European Commission and on the national, regional, or institutional level. Many roadmaps and policies already give EOSC as one of their objectives, and this trend is going to increase in the upcoming years. Thirdly, improve their activities by leveraging skills and expertise beyond their community. The EOSC community is a strong network of knowledge, and the Commission finances EOSC-related development in infrastructures. The rich EOSC environment is continuously growing, as new service providers and resources are joining the EOSC portal. As of May 2022, there are more than 200 service providers, making more than 300 resources available through the EOSC portal marketplace. EOSC-Pillar helped the agri-food community to leverage existing infrastructures, data resources and services to optimize its workflows. The EOSC-Pillar Use Case 6.3 is based on an institutional data repository, Data INRAE, and illustrates how we can defragmentate such data repositories, thanks to their integration with the services and resources for the European Open Science Cloud. Using the Galaxy platform, made available through EOSC-Pillar Use Case 6.6, contributed to build an integrated and interoperable service for Elixir. All this work contributes to encouraging the adoption of fair data principles in health sciences. It is also demonstrating the added value of the European Open Science Cloud through federated services and common best practices. EOSC will have a value for you. Through the catalog and marketplace of EOSC portal, you can connect and experience it. Enjoy the EOSC ecosystem.
We organized this workshop about national policies, started from EOSC Synergy project with the collaboration of other regional projects. All these projects are reaching the end of their life, and so we have results that we wanted to share with the community.
The session we just ended was on open science and EOSC policies and their counterpart at the national level, and we also spoke about the harmonizations.
They have been chairing a session on funding policies. The purpose of the session was really to understand and discuss the work that the regional projects did in their countries and regions about funding policies.
What the session was about access policies and what the experience from the regional projects was really the practical advice what we have to improve in order to give access transnational, for example, to services and data.
EOSC-Pillar presented two important outcomes, guidelines for harmonized open science policy at national level and overcome some problems on IPR and protection of personal data, and the methodology that has been developed for creating business model for the EOSC services.
So we have to find ways to make policies that are national come together. We have to find ways to have legal regulation that is national come together, and we have to find a way to leverage national funding so that we can build something that is bigger than the sum of the parts, that serves all of Europe, but is nationally owned and nationally funded.
NIFOS Europe supports the establishment of national open science initiatives in 15 member states and associated countries. The regional project model has tangible results in EOSC governance in this region and should continue. EOSC stakeholders should translate to a proper business model. The motto, free at the point of use, does not mean free at the point, free of charge. And we ran an open call for providing access to our thematic services, generic services, and repositories to the broad pan-European research community in order to test the services, engage scientists in open science, and contribute in EOSC capacity building.
The social element of this first big conference after COVID was very good. It's nice for the community. I think overall my impression was the atmosphere was very constructive, very positive. Everybody trying to look forward aligned. And when I say everybody, I mean the projects, the 5B projects, I mean EOSC Future, I mean the EOSC Association representatives that are here, I mean the EOSC Steering Board representatives that are here, and even the Commission who also participated in the event.
This is Anne. Anne has created a service for the Earth Environment Sciences and Geosciences communities in France. Her service allows scientists to easily access different data sources, including data from satellite, in situ observations and climate models, which are usually managed and preserved separately in domain-independent repositories. Anne wants to enlarge her user base, so she wants to make her service available in the European Open Science Cloud, an initiative by the European Commission which fosters sharing of services and data among the scientific community, as well as other open science practices. Through the EOSC portal, Anne learns that EOSC offers several core services, including federated authentication and authorization infrastructures, AI. Integrating her service with federated AI will allow her service to reach international users from different scientific communities, enabling them to use their existing federated credentials. The Indigo Identity and Access Management IAM service, one of the EOSC federated AI solutions, features a simple design, uses open standards such as OpenID Connect, is flexible to different use cases, and auditable. Anne gets in touch with Pietro, an expert on the Indigo IAM service. With the guidelines provided by the EOSC-Pillar project and Pietro's help, Anne is able to integrate a federated AI into her service with a few clicks. In Indigo IAM, at the operational level, different roles, such as admins and standard users with different access privileges, can be defined. Now scientists from different communities and from all over the world can access Anne's service without registration. For example, Ursula, a scientist from the German research community and from another institution, can log into Anne's service. Moreover, scientists can seamlessly use different EOSC services at the same time with a single sign-on. For more information, visit EOSC-pillar.eu.
On the technical side in the project, 2021 has seen the first release of the Federated Fair Data Space, which provides a framework for aggregating metadata from heterogeneous and distributed data repositories and align the metadata of these repositories with the DCAT model to publish them in the end into an instance of the Fair Data Point reference implementation that has been developed with one of our collaborating projects, the Fair is Fair project. The Fair Data Point constitutes a centralized and harmonized metadata catalog and contribute to the improvement of the verification of the different repositories within the project without requiring any change. This first version of the Federated Fair Data Space has been delivered in September 2021 and is currently being extensively tested by the different use cases in the project to enrich and transform their metadata content. After designing the index of ontological concepts, we are currently implementing a first version to integrate this index into our Federated Fair Data Space to allow the enrichment of metadata with ontological material. We are continuously improving the Federated Fair Data Space with the feedback from the different communities and testers. We also continue to work on aligning and providing services and infrastructure support for the community demonstrator within the projects. We worked on establishing guidelines for integrating some of these services into EOSC. We are aiming to provide a finalized version with registered data repositories from the different communities. We are also expecting to have integrated previously unconnected service into the EOSC ecosystem. We will provide a proof of concept of a multidisciplinary search engine to find concepts from semantic artifacts that is built upon relevant community resources. We will also release an Ontoportal instance that will store all the semantic artifacts from the communities in Pillar that were not easily accessible. We will provide a set of services that are integrated with Common AI, and we will provide an extended set of ready-to-use infrastructure services, such as T4Science virtual research environment, dedicated and improved Galaxy workflow services, and more.
La fairisation des données, qui, si je me rappelle, signifie findable, accessible, interoperable et reusable. Ça a un impact tout à fait positif, ne serait-ce que pour créer des outils à destination de la recherche, mais aussi des outils pour les étudiants.
J'ai créé avec des collègues une base de données bilingue avec des textes en langue amérindienne de l'époque coloniale jusqu'au début de l'époque républicaine. On a réussi notre pari, à savoir de faire une base de données utilisable par des personnes qui ne sont pas dans le noyau qui a créé cette base.
C'est exactement le rôle de ce bibliothécaire du temps de ma thèse qui allait voir les chercheurs et qui lui disait « s'il vous plaît, ramenez les livres pour que tout le monde puisse les utiliser ». Donc le premier impact pour moi, c'est celui-là, c'est d'amener les collègues à partager.
Et j'ai commencé à mettre la version PDF sur HAL, ne serait-ce que pour le signalement, mais aussi pour la récupération des données elles-mêmes. Mais c'est vrai que pour les collègues dans le domaine de l'histoire littéraire, ce qui compte, c'est l'édition papier.
Nous sommes dans un lieu où parfois encore il y a une forme de personnalisation qui peut être assez aiguë de résultats que l'on a acquis et que l'on n'a pas envie de partager trop vite.
Ce qu'il faut comprendre, c'est que par le partage de données, quand c'est bien déposé, que les métadonnées sont bien enregistrées, etc., nous, en tant que créateurs de la donnée, on n'est pas effacés. Au contraire, notre présence, elle est affirmée.
Dire qu'on a travaillé sur des données qui sont inaccessibles, ça veut dire qu'on n'a pas travaillé. Vraiment, l'exigence chez nous de reproductibilité en maths et en stats et en informatique, elle prend des proportions très importantes.
Il y a ce paradoxe, il y a ce double tranchant, d'un côté d'une nécessité d'ouverture et puis d'autre côté, attention, vie privée.
Si on garde les données pour nous, en fait, il ne se passera pas grand-chose. Le fait de rendre tout de suite les textes accessibles, ça a encouragé nos collègues historiens de nous envoyer leurs textes, donc d'enrichir notre base. Nous, on leur traduisait et on le mettait en ligne. Du coup, c'était d'emblée partagé.
Tout le monde refait tout le temps le même travail parce que c'est pas fait de la même manière et surtout parce qu'on ne sait pas de quelle manière c'est fait.
Tout l'enjeu en fait pour les arts de la scène, c'est de définir ces champs de description pour ensuite pouvoir exploiter cette information sur le plan scientifique.
Comment on repense les corpus que l'on fait? Qu'est-ce que d'autres vont pouvoir faire avec mes données? Et donc, les préparer d'une certaine manière.
On a dû se mettre d'accord sur un certain nombre de données que nous voulions voir dans cette base de texte. Il a fallu aussi se mettre d'accord sur ce qu'on appelle les métadonnées, c'est-à-dire les éléments qui permettent de décrire les textes que nous mettons dans la base de données.
Plus on va donner d'éléments de contexte, plus on va donner des éléments pour comprendre comment ces données ont été construites, plus, à mon sens, elles vont être réappropriables.
Je ne me fais pas trop de soucis sur la pérennité des données. On réfléchit à ça. On a le PDF Archival qui est complètement stable. On a le PET format CSV qui est increvable.
Les SHS, c'est plus problématique parce que les données ont besoin de plus de contextualisation. Il y a des questions d'homogénéité dans le temps, dans l'espace, notamment lorsqu'on travaille sur des données dans le temps long.
On a une masse de textes. Je crois que si on réfléchit dans la perspective faire, on peut négocier à commencer par certains textes, à continuer avec d'autres. Et cela nous amènera plus rapidement, collectivement, à cet objectif d'une bibliothèque qui serait requêtable par tous, qui serait exploitable par tous.
Il y a d'autres aspects qui sont ceux du danger d'une forme de standardisation trop prononcée qui, justement, tendrait à ne recourir qu'à des métriques, qu'à des formes d'indexation strictement quantitatives ou strictement logiques, en négligeant l'ensemble de ce qui est qualitatif, qui est une part irréductible des données en sciences humaines en général et en psychologie en particulier.
S'il y a des règles, des standards sur les contenus, il n'y en a pas sur la façon dont on les traite ou comment on arrive à faire ce qu'on fait aux données. Donc il y a toute une partie de notre travail qui mérite d'être observée, décrite et formalisée.
C'est-à-dire quand on écrit, quand on collecte des données, d'avoir un protocole de recherche explicite, écrit et compréhensible.
Il y avait un devoir de trouver le moyen de pouvoir diffuser des connaissances très brutes, très liées au travail, pour en faire des synthèses. Ça me semble extrêmement important, que les données deviennent simplifiées, transformées, accessibles.
On va véritablement moins se représenter le travail de recherche comme une quête solitaire d'une vérité plus ou moins saisissable, pour beaucoup plus un travail collectif.
On a mobilisé les compétences d'historiens, de philologues, linguistes et d'anthropologues. Un projet de base de données de cette ampleur-là ne peut pas se faire sans une équipe pluridisciplinaire. Et c'est justement parce qu'elle est pluridisciplinaire que la donnée est la plus partagée d'une certaine manière et qu'elle devient la plus interopérable possible.
Je pense que l'affairisation des données, ça va contribuer aussi à rendre réutilisables nos données et à les rendre visibles.
D'une manière générale, partager les données est devenu quand même, surtout pour les jeunes générations de chercheurs, une priorité, une prise de conscience.
Je pense qu'il faut continuer à organiser des stages, à organiser des rencontres au niveau, pas seulement européen, mais international.
Donc je pense que c'est une forte opportunité pour se pencher vers des directions nouvelles. Et ça donne envie, en fait. Voilà.
Pour moi, une donnée dans mon champ de compétences, c'est tout d'abord un document qui est issu des arts de la scène. Donc ça peut être tout type de documents, des captations audiovisuelles, des écrits de théâtre, des carnets de mise en scène. Cela devient une donnée à partir du moment où je décris le document selon un schéma de métadonnées que j'ai défini au préalable.
Une donnée en archéologie, c'est une information qui caractérise un fait archéologique, qu'il soit immobilier ou mobilier.
En sciences politiques, une donnée, traditionnellement, par l'image de la discipline, ça a été typiquement des résultats électoraux, des résultats...
Yeah, sure. Okay, so you can find all the info here. I am here, of course, if you need any help. But yeah, so it's up to you how you would like to organize. Let me just introduce quickly the return from here. Hello, everyone. Good morning, and welcome back again for our final closing session. So just a few reminders before we start. So we have some dissemination material which you can pick up if you'd like, any of them, even the posters, if you'd like to take them as a keepsake and a memory of the EOSC-Pillar project. Now, for our closing session, I'd like to now pass the floor to our EOSC-Pillar project manager, Fulvio Galeazzi, who will lead the session.
Thank you. So for this closing session, we have a quite numerous set of panelists. And the first one I would like to call on stage is Jan. I don't see anything from Jan. Jan is coming. Jan is the technical manager of the project. Okay, I guess you all know him. He is also the CEO and scientific director of eScience Data Factory, which is his French company. He is strongly involved in the EOSC FAIR project landscape in a number of projects with the FAIR word within. It provides his expertise on semantic web and linked data in these projects. He is co-chair of several working groups around semantics, such as RDA Vocabulary and Semantic Service Interest Group, the FAIR Digital Object Semantics Working Group, and also contributes to the EOSC Semantic Interoperability Task Force. Welcome, Jan. Then, on behalf of the French Ministry of Higher Education and Research, I would like to call here Volker. Volker was a member of the EOSC-Pillar project, and since July 2020, he has been the coordinator for EOSC at the French Ministry for Higher Education and Research. As part of his role, he organized the annual EOSC France Days. Next, for representative for Italy for the ICDI initiative, Sara Di Giorgio. Sara is the Open Science Policy and International Relations Officer at GAR. She's involved in ICDI for the involvement and strengthening of the Italian national initiatives in the EOSC ecosystem. She has participated in the coordination activities of WP4, from national initiatives to transnational services of the EOSC-Pillar project, and she is the deputy coordinator of a new project, especially focused on training with respect to EOSC, which is called Skills for EOSC. Next, we have Andreas Atenodorou from NIFOS Europe. Andreas is an associate research scientist at the Computational-Based Science and Technology Research Center at the Cyprus Institute. He's working on computational high-energy physics. During the last 6 years, he has been working in leadership positions in EC infrastructure projects, such as VICIM and in NIFOS Europe, as the leader of the work package, which focuses on user engagement, training, and demonstrators. For EOSC Nordic, would like to call on stage Minna Lapalainen. Minna is EOSC Nordic's work package leader for engagement, communication, and competence building. She is director at CSC, responsible for brand management and strategic marketing. Since she joined CSC in 2014, she has been central to building CSC's marketing functions. One of her recent works has been on the Lumi supercomputer. Next, I would like to call Inge. Where's Inge? She disappeared. Okay.
Oh, she's just coming.
She's just coming. Wow, just in time. From Ghent University, she is an open science expert working at Ghent University Library. She has been engaged in several open access and open science activities for 18 years, including national and European projects such as OpenAIR. In that capacity, she has been in close contact with relevant national and regional actors. Okay, thanks. And last, we should have Diego Skaidashi connected from representing EOS Future. He is the technical solution team lead at EGI Foundation, and he is currently co-leading the EOS Future technical pillar and co-chairing the EOS Future Technical Coordination Board. Main tasks of the EOS Future Technical Coordination Board are leading the design of the EOS platform and overseeing the minimal viable EOSC implementation.
Can we just to test, Diego, can you say hi, and can we have him shown on this big screen, perhaps?
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you now. So just give us a few seconds to have your video on the screen. But in any case, I think we can begin.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Thanks a lot for joining us today. I think just to start with this panel, I want to go back to the first day, to the opening session. And Volker already showed us how the approach to EOSC has changed and has evolved over these last 3 years. So I would like to ask you, in your position as members of projects and from your observation point in national initiatives, what do you think have been the main changes, how the EOS landscape has evolved over these 3 years? So, not know who wants to take the
I'll kick off. Well, we have seen some changes, but maybe not enough, because I must say at the beginning of EOSC-Pillar, we quite quickly got in contact with the mandated organization. We already were in contact with people from government, like Bart, who is also in the steering board. So on that level, the contexts were already from the beginning quite good, and we assembled all the people working on EOSC-related projects. So from the beginning, we quite hit off. And we stayed in contact together. But if you look at really the researchers' base, we still have a lot of work to do. So it's maybe it's, as we talked before this morning, it would have been too early to do that. But with the actors more on top of management, of repository managers, they are engaged. So, and that has evolved in the 3 years of this project and what we see in the last few years. And in Flanders, for example, all the universities are a member of the EOSC Association and get involved as well. So on that level, it's not a bad picture, but there's, of course, a lot of work to do.
Yes, I also wanted to put a spoiler alert. I mean, we still have some reluctance in defining what the EOSC is after 3 years, but no, seriously, but this is improving. Like the definition of web of fair data and services. I mean, this is something which is easy to grasp, the concept, and so we are going towards a definition of the EOSC, which helps also in making it more popular.
Yes, and as a CDI, as you know, GAR, that is the coordinator, is also the legal representative of the mandated organization and one of the most important animator of this network. So throughout these 3 years, we have seen a huge enlargement of the CDI network. So we started with 10 members and now we have 23 members, and these members are key players in the research in Italy. So for connecting all this center of research to the EOSC-related initiatives, the EOSC Association and other projects. Also, we achieved a good impact. ECDI also is organizing working groups where experts support the Italian representative in the task force. And also it is very much engaged in training researchers. So we have this initiatives that is the competence center that was also supported by the training work package activities that has been carried out in Pillar. So it was a mutual enhancement in this case. So yeah, regarding the ECDI in these training activities, we get more and more onwards regarding training. So now we have at least 1,400 people trained with these webinars. They are on monthly basis. So I see that this this collaboration worked a lot. Of course, there is still a lot to do regarding the infrastructure, but maybe we can talk later about this.
Maybe the other regional views.
Okay, so I'll talk from the NIFO's perspective. I think a lot has been done. We have managed to onboard 37 repositories, 31 thematic services, 21 generic services. We have managed to make 15 national open science initiatives, so to influence the governmental part, and we managed to train researchers, train all different kind of stakeholders to promote EOSC and FAIR in all different kind of communities. I think we have done a lot, but there is still a lot more to be done. We found out that this regional character of the project worked extremely well. So in this direction, I think it would be nice to have some kind of continuation, but still things are progressing very slowly. So I think, we need to find ways to speed up the process. And of course, there is a lack of a business model. And I think this works as an obstacle, for the further establishment of EOSC.
Thanks. Mina, you would like to? Yep, Mina.
Yes. So that the question was about that what has happened 3 years,
yes,
in these 3 years. So we see in the Nordics that that this collaboration has really impact, so that that all the ministry level functions, they are now in a place. And in Finland, we have this EOSC forum, Finland, for example, and also in the other Nordic countries as well. And we just organized this 3-party event in the Nordics in Tallinn in the beginning of October, and it was a great success. And for example, in Estonia, they said that they have never seen so many people from the ministries in the same meeting. So it was a really, really good step. And of course, on the expert level, it has been...
Sorry to interrupt. Could you please put the microphone closer to your...
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, so on the expert level also, this I think that it has been really fruitful, this collaboration together. And then we have also worked with researchers. So we have these EOSC pioneers, and I think that this is something quite interesting. So that we have now the tools, they are in place, but also researchers, they are willing to try, and this has happened across the scientific disciplines. So it has been really good example that about the interest and will.
Thanks. So it's good that you mentioned the ministries resonating on this, of course. And yeah, please, Jan.
So if we just look back 3 years ago when we started EOSC-Pillar, there was no EOSC association. There was actually the EOSC Secretariat project that was trying to start laying out the foundations of the EOSC association. I think what is nice with the regional project is that we actually actively contributed to the creation of this new association and the involvement of the different national partners. We've seen the engagement of the ministry. By the way, we lost Volker as work package leader to the ministry, but that created a dynamic both at the high level for decision making, but also at the lower level with the communities, because then we had an impact also on the researchers at the different levels in the different countries. We raised awareness about EOSC, although we still do not really clearly know how to define EOSC, but this is going to happen. And it was nice to see the fact that over the 3 years, this whole landscape of stakeholders that's extremely complex actually came up together to try to build a common solution, and to see all the member states also being actively involved and picking up this need for this European cloud. And I think that's our role as a regional project, was to also make sure that in France and Belgium and Austria and all the countries involved, that people were a little bit more familiar about EOSC, or at least they know who to talk to and they had reference. They get some material. Communication is important. I mean, what is missing for EOSC now is marketing, basically, and communication. And so we started, and I think that's one of the positive things.
Thanks. Okay, you want to add anything to
No, as I said already at the first day, I think so this community building was very important. And I mean, through EOSC-Pillar, we reached out to a lot of organizations which are now members of the association, also thanks to EOSC-Pillar engagement. And then we had this phase of building up the structures, steering board and association. And I think my message would be now, so we have now the key actors in there. It's good to continue onboarding new actors and so on, but we have quite a good base now, and we should now stop working on the references and so on. We should really put things into place. And as we have seen here at the conference, there are things which work in the EOS context, which are good examples, and we should start with that and make sure that we increase the service offer and the real tangible results in EOS.
Thanks. Diego, I don't know whether you want to say something in this respect. Otherwise, I have a question which is more directly involving you. I mean, since you are not really representing a current project, but one started rather recently, and you are not also the national, not a national representative here in this panel, but nevertheless, you were one of the actors behind the scenes in several EOSC-related activity over these years. So you want to share something?
Yeah, I fully agree with a lot of things that's been said. We did a lot in the last 3 years. We still have to do a lot. So now we have a governance, we have the EOSC association, and then we have we are converging towards a common idea of what EOSC is. We have the definition that you mentioned, EOSC as a web of data services. We also go further, since now it's a common, a common idea that EOSC is not something that will be developed from scratch, but is a system of systems that should put together the experience gained by different initiatives in the past years, like research infrastructure, national infrastructure. And EOSC should create the glue to allow the researchers to work in a homogeneous environment with contribution coming from all these actors. In this context, the contribution from the regional project is fundamental, since it's allowing the EOSC to scale up, since from, from a central point of view, would be possible reaching all the actors, all the service providers, the communities that could benefit from EOSC. So the role on this year of the regional project was fundamental. So, and it's important now to create a conjunction between the activities that are developed at the more central level, like the work that we are doing in EOSC Fusion to implement the minimum viable EOSC, with the output, the outcome of the regional projects, in a way to create a unique environment where we can benefit from all the work that's been done in the last years.
Thanks a lot, Diego. And connected to this, I would like to ask all the projects another question. Projects produce a lot of things during their lifetime, concrete and immaterial things. If you have to single out one or maybe two important contributions of your project to the, not necessarily directly to EOSC Future, but to the EOSC ecosystem at large, what would you say? Who wants to start?
Yeah, I can start.
Okay.
Yes, from our point of view, from ECDI, we have, I think, many results that we try to reuse and also to adapt to the Italian situation. One is the catalog, that it's still in a prototype setup, and so, but this it's used by the competence center for the training resources. So. And it will be also used in this other new project, Skill for EOSC, that it's also coordinated by CDI. And yeah, we are also reflecting about the possibility to adopt this catalog as catalog for CDI, but we are working on it. And then also this work that EOSC-Pillar conducted about the guidelines on, of course, on onboarding services, all the information that are useful for service provider, but especially this checklist for researchers to help researchers in dealing with IPR and data protection when they are publishing free data. This is something that we have translated into Italian, and we want to adapt also to the legal framework, the Italian legal framework. So researchers could be supported by a practical, operative tool in order to publish their data in beyond the fairness. So these, I think, in my opinion,
Thanks.
are.
So, I mean, it is really difficult to stick to just two. I mean, there are several, I think, success stories in NIFOS, but I will just mention the onboarding of services, the National Open Science Initiatives, and the involvement of researchers in the open call, where in total we got 20 applications, and they have been access to resources.
Great.
So,
yeah. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. It's difficult to choose what are the most important, but I can, and I was happy that you said that we can add a second one. So,
double your possibility.
So verification and this fair training. So, and I was happy to hear also that EOSC-Pillar was cooperating with EOSC Nordic about this verification. And it was really so that there is this kind of fair score, and it was showing the visibility in a visible way that oh yeah. So I'm like idiom country,
style, yeah.
with my hands. So that this fair uptake we were able to measure that how it has been improved, and this fair score was increased in 98 repositories, and we also trained 300 these in this fair training. But then I also want to talk about the Knowledge Hub. So I think that was also something different from the other regional projects, so that we tried to create such kind of stakeholder-oriented approach, and it's visible in our website, the Knowledge Hub, and it was really it is a door and window to the whole project, and everything is targeted to the different stakeholders. And there is all the training materials, and you can filter the whole content, and as we have heard about these communication challenges, I think that it's really important to really target the messages to the right audiences, and so that's something that I hope that you can.
Thanks. I would like now to move to Diego for a while, because for you, Diego, the question takes a different twist, of course. So what are the key things, again, material or immaterial, that EOS Future will bring forward? I understand that, I mean, you work in a project where everything, or mostly everything, is written already in the DOA, but since project preparation phase to today, things change, evolve, and you may have been unaware of something which was developed by regional. So what are the things that you are considering bringing forward?
I think, first of all, in general, I think the main achievement of EOSC Future is that we moved from the EOS core services that were a set of scattered services delivered by different initiatives in the past to a EOSC platform, that an integrated system that is now the first implementation of the minimum viable EOSC as defined by the past EOSC governance. This is the general term. So we are now, I would say, a unique system where the user can access to benefit from the EOSC capabilities, the EOSC resources in general. Looking more into the details, in the context of this activity, I think also this is very relevant for the discussion for today. Two main achievements that I'd like to mention are, first of all, that we moved from an EOSC service catalog, this was a list of services only, to a EOSC resource catalog, where now the user can identify, in addition to services, also research products like dataset, publication, and other kind of resources like trainings. And the same for the providers. Also, the providers can register on board in the EOSC platform these different types of resources. And in particular, and this is very relevant for the regional project, the possibility to register to onboard in the catalog, directly resource catalog. So we now have the possibility to interact directly with the catalog developed by community initiatives or regional national initiatives, and to make available all the resources that are registered in this catalog in the EOSC platform. So this is a fundamental capabilities that would allow to scale up and to make, I would say, the registration, the onboarding of resources in EOSC more straightforward.
Okay, thanks a lot, Diego. Welcome. I don't know whether you have other comments on this. Otherwise, before opening the floor to the audience, I still have another question which I would like to ask you. Christian Cuciniello, the first day, told us that the upcoming work program is bringing in some new elements, so adjusting a little bit. So it's widening the reach of the EOSC, it's strengthening the environment, it's making it more trustworthy, is paying attention to all products of research, and also framing the evolution of EOSC in the context of global challenges. So, I mean, this is a natural evolution of any project that you adapt. You start with something, then you adapt and see what needs to be changed and adjusted. But my question here is, do you see any obstacle or big things ahead that could hamper the growth of the EOSC? Oh, Volker?
So you didn't mention it now, but I think in Cristiano's presentation, there's also the public sector at large,
right.
which is to be targeted. So far in our community, we don't have a lot of contacts, or do we have contacts with the public sector at large? This means like governments, agencies, public sector, which has data about citizens, about traffic, about whatever you can think of.
Yeah.
And we are not so used to this kind of thinking, because there are, of course, there are legal or GDPR issues involved there, but also new ways of this. This is much more also about providing data to the public, and we are used to providing data to researchers. So we have to start thinking perhaps then a bit different than what we have been doing so far. Of course, this is just in the context of one call, but it shows a bit the way we have to go. We have to open further up, and this is a real challenge, I think, because we are not yet. I mean, we are starting to provide service to researchers, but it would be probably not fair to say that we are already there to fully provide that. So, and at the same time, so the main challenge I think I see here is so we have this communication issue, right? Knowledge about EOSC and so on, and we have to know what researchers want and so on. And the other challenge is commitment. We need the commitment by the research performing organizations and by the ministries to go forward. And we have to really, I mean, we really still have to work on that beyond statements where we as organization X, Y, we want to participate in the EOSC. That's a starting point. It's not sufficient.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Yes, if I can add, Volker, in Skill for EOSC, we have a specific work package that is devoted to this science for policy, that will help and train also researchers to communicate to this civil servant, public administration, because we need, and also this COVID situation demonstrate how many problems appears when this dialogue is not clear, or they took the wrong decision because researchers are not really well understood and all this. And regarding the commitment in Italy, I can say that we have finally the National Plan for Open Science. So we have a document that frames all the open science where EOSC, it's a vision well defined, but we don't have a funding stream. So the problem in Italy mainly is this, that there is no national infrastructure for open science. Universities, there are hundreds universities, they don't have a repository, so not all. They start to look for this, and so we need this kind of funding to guarantee and to equip university and research centers with the university, but also with people such as data stewards and experts that can support this open science models practice in the daily life. So, and I think that the EOSC Association, the Commission, should support this commitment from the ministry in an harmonized way at the European level, because maybe some action on advocacy could be taken to guarantee an harmonized development among the member states in investment for doing this EOSC a reality, let's say.
I see that Inge wanted to add something.
If I may. So in Flanders, for example, we have we are lucky that we have an open science roadmap with connected budget up to 2024. So now the big thing will be we need to be able to prolong that, because that is also connected to EOSC. Part of the reason it's not only to support open science, the European Open Science Cloud was also an accelerator to get this roadmap there with the connected budget. So the funding will be an important factor in how far can we keep the funding or can we increase it. And then there is a difference in acceleration between the regions in Belgium. So how can we balance that as well? So that could be a difficult factor, but because we see that the take-up in Bologna is a bit less than in Flanders. How can we balance that? That's one thing. I want to come back to the commitment that you mentioned, Volker, this morning in the session, and I'm going to stress it again. We have to be careful not to have high expectations with researchers with a lot of communication for things that we cannot do yet, because then we lose them. And that is really something that could torpedo the ambitions of EOSC, because you want the research community to get involved, but at a certain point in time when they can already get some services out of EOSC. So that balance is for us very important to guard. So I really want to emphasize that. On the other hand, we saw in the use cases yesterday here of EOSC-Pillar really nice results on how to engage a community and to show what EOSC can do for them. So use cases will be important to engage the community. And that is something we certainly have to keep on doing. So these are a few of the elements that we have to take care of for future EOSC, I think.
Yes, very good points, and there is a lot of all kind of open science initiatives which are not really labeled under EOSC. So that's also something. And I was really happy as a marketing person. So I was really happy to see that there is EOSC brand now. And I wish that would help in the complexity of this all initiatives which are around here, so that they are all labeled in the same way, and we, like, understandably there is a connection between these things. And these use cases and good examples, they are really important. So that because I think that everybody needs a purpose here. So why we are doing this? So and different ways that you can make this visible. It gives also the meaningful, because everybody wants to have a meaningful purpose for this. So I think that that's something that should be progressed further.
Yeah, at least connect to the one of a provocative question that came to my mind when you were talking. Does it really help always to talk about EOSC, or in some cases would it be good to frame this movement or engagement of ministry in the wider open science, plain open science word? Because I mean, it can be a double word, you know. But okay, that's the next thing.
Well, actually, maybe I comment on that. I think one of the, obstacles is to create a culture of open science, in the research communities. And this is, it needs a lot of effort, to manage that. Of course, what I would like to add is regarding the obstacles, that EOSC faces is, as I said before, the lack of a business model regarding the funding and sustainability of services, because at the end of the day, EOSC is a place where a researcher could find all the services needed for her or his research. So, yeah. Okay. Yes.
Can you repeat the question, because I don't?
Yeah, which is strongly related to the regional character of NIFOS. Mainly, we have a memorandum of understanding. So basically, what really it is difficult is when it comes to services that have like high performance computing cycles behind them. Who's going to pay for these resources? So NIFOS and the regional, the Southeast European region have signed a memorandum of understanding, which basically enables the resource sharing. And this is something that, let's say, mitigates the sustainability of the services which are provided through the NIFOS platform, and that have been onboarded by the help of NIFOS in the European Open Science Cloud. So I would say this is also something where the regional character of the project really helps, towards the sustainability.
Thanks. Oh, Volker, I think was really
thanks. So, yeah, depending with whom one talks, I always like seeing the EOSC in the context of digital transition in general. That's sometimes much easier to convince colleagues or at the ministry or deciders to say, look, we need to share resources on a national level. That I think this message is this is clear. And we need to share services and we need to share data. And under this umbrella, there's EOSC as one important element to go for. If we always beat too much on EOSC, then sometimes colleagues don't understand what we actually want. So it's about making life easier. It's about making opening opportunities, and it's also unfortunately about saving resources, right? That's also one of the goals. So, and with this messages, sometimes it's easier to convince colleagues to engage in there.
Yeah, on the other hand, the European umbrella ensures that you are aligned with the others, and you can also point fingers at others, see they are doing this, so why don't we do like that? So maybe also a driver for change at the national level.
On national level, sometimes the European axis doesn't work so good to convince, right? Because most of the financing in our systems is national or regional, and it's not coming from the EC.
There was Inge also online. Unless this is strictly related to Volker.
No, because we in EOSC-Pillar, we had this consultation about the European Structural Fund and the national funding. So, and then we tried to go back in Italy and to find out how to use this money, but we had a lot of difficulties. So I was curious if in France, for example, there are projects on this under the EOSC partnership umbrella that they use this structural fund where there is a lot of money.
No, I don't think there's structural fund money which I could tap in there.
Sorry, Inge was waiting.
Probably if it's related to keep on.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I agree with all of you. Funding is one reason that will definitively limit the growth of EOSC. Then there is something that is very interesting. This is the cultural change. And this is the main challenge because it takes a lot of time to change culture. And we need to provide incentive to researchers to actually share their data. Also, that's something we discussed with Inge on the terrace, right? I mean, EOSC may make a big marketing mistake in identifying targets because we're talking about research community, but what do we mean by research community? There are some key projects that are federating some of the partners within social science, neuroscience. This is a gate, right? But that does not reflect the whole population of scientists across Europe most of the time. You still have tons of people in labs that are storing their data on external hard drive. They don't know where they can replicate the data for archiving it. They have no support at local level. And these ones are often left over from these research communities. So I think maybe we need to reconsider also the type of people we're talking to, maybe really identify what is the research community at large, what are the big players and the smaller ones, because we may satisfy some communities that have already well-identified data needs, but what about all the, what we call the long tail? All these scientists that are working on a daily basis and do not know that Well, I do remember, as I was saying, B2Drop was developed in EUDAT. That's a Dropbox system. I went into my community, which is neuroscience, in a conference, and people were not aware that they could actually store 50 gigs of data in a Dropbox-like service that was freely available from based on European funds. So there are a lot of work that we need to do on communication and outreach to all these, I would call long-tail scientists, but I don't like that term, right? But all the guys that are not necessarily directly involved or connected with what we call the research community.
Okay, now Inge.
There's something else I wanted to raise, that is the tension between what we want to do in EOSC and open science at large is a community-owned infrastructure, community-driven infrastructure and services. We really want the community, however you define it, but to get involved, and it has a non-profit character with the pros and cons behind that, and that can collide with like an economic, more marketing-focused way of dealing with things, which is very focused maybe more on short-term and efficiency now. And it made me think of the picture yesterday that Gilles was showing about the car with the squared wheels, and then, well, with the round wheels it go faster, but we don't have time for that now. So there is a tension there, and we have to be careful that we foster the community driven aspect, which is not always the most, maybe on short term, the most efficient one. So, and that is a tension, if we are not careful, that could also harm EOSC if we go too much into the economic logic on how to drive EOSC. I think we have to be careful with that as well.
Just to comment on something that Jan said, I completely agree with Jan. And I think it's really missing now is to approach different scientific communities, and I mean, go to the scientific communities and and raise awareness. I think there is no such a thing. I think it will be really nice to have like some kind of action that will enable European Commission to, let's say, mobilize researchers that are good science communicators, are good open science communicators. I mean, and appear, for instance, in workshops, in conferences of their field of research, and raise awareness and educate people about open science and about EOSC. I think this would be really great.
There's one thing that is being done by the European Commission, which I think is going to help out in this direction. Evaluation of researchers. You're evaluated on paper, right? So you're under pressure, publish, perish. Fair data, why should I waste my time? Just because my funder is asking me to do that, I'll have to do it. I will do minimally and badly. So we need to actually put value, and I know that the European Commission is trying to change that framework and to push all the different research organizations to reconsider how we should evaluate scientists, not necessarily on papers only, but also on their real impact on society by sharing data. And I think that's one of the key things, but again, that's cultural change, and cultural change takes a lot of time.
The question is how much you push for it. I mean, this is a very good,
Yeah, I remember Christian Cucinello was also mentioning this reform of the evaluation of researchers, and I see it also at the Italian level, this is percolating down to the ministries, which is a tremendously good sign, because I mean, this gives you a reward for this.
But we also have to take into account that not all, I mean, scientists and researchers are getting funded by the European Commission. So, I mean, somehow also the open science initiatives should also take action in that direction.
Yeah, I would encourage not always to look for the Commission for everything, because, as I said, the main flux of financing, the main resources on the national level, this is where we have to solve issues. And some issues are country specific. Europe can help to coordinate. especially with the research assessment, Europe can help a lot, but then it's a global problem also. And I see this also, we have some RPOs which have already in place a change in research assessment, but this is on paper. And then it takes a generation to change the colleagues who are in the committees, who evaluate. And if there's a guideline, you shouldn't count papers, but they count papers. I mean, what do you do? So that's there. I think Europe can help in these kind of things. But on other issues, we shouldn't always wait or stare at the Commission to say, well, this is what we have to do. This is what you are going to do next. I mean, this has to come out of the countries.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I think that one thing is that it has to come inside, and so that if it's a normality in the research, so then it's like you have to just do it, because otherwise you are not in the normal phase, or how to say, and I think that it's a quite interesting aspect, because now companies, they are all talking about the sustainability, and so this is the sustainability of the research. So we should use this to affect on people, researchers.
Thanks. Thanks a lot for your comment. I still have another question, but before that, I would like to open the floor to the audience, and I ask Rob whether there is something from remote attendees. So, do you have any questions to our panelists and Diego as well? Diego? Yeah, I don't see him there. Okay. Yes. Okay, yours. Yeah. First rows, I can't see anything. Sorry.
Yes, thank you. I would like to ask what it was mentioned already in the beginning that during the years of Pillar existence, the governance came into place for EOSC. And what do the panelists think that the EOSC Association's role should be regarding projects or regarding building up EOSC from here with their experience over the last few years?
Yeah, the association should, in a way, support the research communities and the mandated organization in focusing on on the main goal and to support the exchange. But yeah, having a role directly in the project, this is something that I really, I'm personally not agree. So the role of the association is for creating awareness and collecting researchers, communities around EOSC, but then, no.
I think one of the danger related to funding is how do you exploit the resources, right? So in EOSC-Pillar, we've been discussing about the sustainability of our results. We have a lot of outputs that are extremely valuable that could be reused, but then what is the guarantee that they will be reused or considered? For services, some of them are going to die at the end of the project. So maybe, I do not completely disagree, but maybe one of the role of the EOSC Association is to make sure that the EOSC-related projects are coordinated at the European level. So they do not necessarily interfere in the project, but advise on what would be the strategy for reusing some of the outputs of previous projects so that we valorize the money that's been initially invested, which would be a huge amount of work, right? And kind of what they're doing, because they kind of have a say on which project are going to be funded now. So, well, that's what I understood, that they, at least they will be, that they will be made aware of. I don't know if they will have to, yeah, that's a difference. Maybe I didn't say it right, but in any case, I think, well, if EOSC Association needs to build something, of course, awareness, agree, but then you need to build EOSC still, right? So there's a lot of bits and pieces that needs to be put together. So if we just want to rationalize the resources and the funding, I think that there should be somewhere, someone or an organization that do coordinate for that purpose, but that's my viewpoint.
I think we have to be very careful there. A project, European funded project, is a contract between the Commission and the consortium. We can have written in each project call that there should be collaboration, and it can be more defined with the association, but this association doesn't have a control function or decision function where the money goes. Also the member states, and there's the Commission, finally deciding what kind of calls are issued. And we have already a very strong role for the association in the process of writing the Infra-EOSC program, because the SRIA is the basis for that. And so I think we have to be a bit careful that it's that the funding comes from the European Commission. It doesn't come from the EOSC Association.
Yeah, and let's not forget that we talk about a federated structure. So there are other initiatives that can hook up onto it. But what I think is very important as an EOSC association is that there are these advisory groups and task forces. It's really fundamental that projects are involved there and share knowledge there and align there, and that everyone knows what's going on in the other projects. So this coordination, alignment, the structure is there now with these task forces, though that is something that really has to be taken up. I don't know personally and how far this is at this moment the case, but it should definitely be the case. I think that's a really important function of the EOSC Association.
So being in one of the task force, it's complicated because indeed we are all from different projects, but first we have limited amount of time. We do that for free. We have a mandate for 2 years, and after that, we don't know if we will exist again, if that goes into another form. So maybe there should be a sort of, structure that will allow you to spend more time on this, because it's really hard now. It depends on the task forces and depends on the people and so on. But I mean, there's too much, and so without funding or without dedicated funding for maintaining these kind of task forces, it's going to die at some point, right? Just dying out of people not having the time to really contribute. Although they foster discussion, that's great. There's a huge amount of exchange of information on, oh, that was done in this project and so on. But then you need to build something from that, right? And so that's where I like the idea of task forces. That's why I joined one. But then we really need to think about what should be their mandate and how they should be structured, and what would be the resources we allocate to these task forces.
But within the European projects, there could be a possibility to make sure that resources, time is devoted to this, talking to each other and aligning among each other. I think maybe that should be possible. But that's within the time frame of the project. Because indeed, afterwards, it's like you say, it's like you have to find time to do that. And we see it in the task forces. We see it in our own working groups in Flanders. Time is limited.
Well, one of the issues is that there are different time scales. There's the EOSC Association that is supposed to be long-lasting, and then there are 3 years projects. So there's an issue we need to reconcile at some point to make sure that this is taken up, and this is not dying after the project. But for me, this is a total waste.
Yeah, I mean, this is the key topic right now, right? And I invite again everybody to come to Prague to engage in this discussion, this post-27 discussion, we call that, because we have to decide how we want to see EOSC and how we engage there, and how we get away from this project-funded approach. Also, one should always remember the European projects, the financing is there for development of certain aspects. It's never going to be the backbone. It's never going to make it sustainable. It's also not to continue from one call to the next in order to make sure that a certain service continues to live. That's not the idea.
Thanks. Are there any other questions?
We had that yesterday in the business model discussion. Unfortunately, you were not there. The question is, should we move from sustainable funding for research instead of project-based funding? And so there's no good answer to that. But it's true that projects must stay, and project funding must stay, because that's the way you fund innovation, right? So you prevent stagnation. And so that I think that maybe, well, often in many cases, the truths lie between the two different sides, right? So having a mixed approach would be a good solution, so you can continue.
One thing, is there any place or because we have all these different projects, so is anybody harvesting the projects so that putting them to the roadmap, or what has been achieved in the projects? So are they always separated, or is there somebody digging in and putting all these out?
No, in principle, they are part of the ESRIA, right? You look at the ESRIA, what has to be done next, what we have to achieve, and then this project are put into place. And then ideally, the outcomes should be either, depending what it is, right? It should be either part then of the portal, and usually projects also have to say how they want to make this sustainable. Where's the commitment by the RPOs involved, or by the countries involved? So of course, it's difficult once the money is not there anymore to keep. It's not only about money, but it gives a frame to continue this work. So I think that's a difficult topic, because we can also not say, okay, the commission, the association has to take all this over, because they also don't have yet a funding model to support all these services. So again, my message is we have to address this at the RPO levels. They have to have a vital interest to continue providing their services, because it's part of what they do, and because it's part then of the changed culture. We cannot rely on some European funding or the association to fund all that. That's not going to work.
Yeah. Adil? Mm-hmm. Can you? Okay, thanks.
Promise not to ask more questions later. I guess one thing that we found, and I think that you guys have found as well, is that all the researchers, no matter how small, are very proud of what they do and the data that they produce. So one of the issues that we've had in EOSC Nordic is, and perhaps, I don't know, maybe it's the same in EOSC-Pillar, is that the use cases, when we chat to the communities, it's the larger communities that were able to afford the resources to devote to the use cases. So the use cases that we have are coming from large communities. And so when the small researchers come along, they look at these use cases and they think, well, it's not for me, because these guys are big guys. So if we were able to change the message in EOSC and say, well, it's for, no matter how small, it's your data matters, and it's worth, we will help you to try and keep it. The other thing is that in EOSC Nordic, we've had some tiny successes, but I think also in EOSC-Pillar as well, the archaeological people have found, they found that a great value in the work that they did in collaborating, joining their metadata in Norway and in Denmark, and they want to continue this beyond EOSC Nordic. So there's a little momentum there to continue this. Of course, some of the people that are providing the services are concerned about how can we support these additional things. And then also with the data management as well, the mad people that are working with me are keen on continuing the work beyond EOSC Nordic as well. So these are small things that people are finding value in, and they want to continue beyond the project as well. And I'm sure that in EOSC pillar as well, there's the same.
Thanks, Adil. And I think your comment and some other comments bring me to the last question. Because the other day, Suzanne de Michel showed us the EOSC Association, how it is structured, how it is connected to researchers, steering board, and the commission, and helps defining and aligns to the strategies and multi-annual roadmaps. So given all this, and I understand that they, as here, is a bit biased, do we still need a regional approach to engage countries in EOSC? So Adil already had his view expressed now that I mean it starts a process.
I mean, we created networks through the EOSC pillar. So these regional connections, they are very valuable because we can learn from each other and we work together directly. And it's about practical things, about like also between steering board members to discuss directly what an approach should be taken. So I think this network, this should continue, and there where it was useful, I think there it is naturally going to continue. I don't know if the question goes into a direction if there should be a real action to be taken in the sense that we should create a working group to address certain topics, like with the national initiatives between the 5 countries. So there, again, if it's useful, I think it's going to survive. Mm-hmm. If it's if we keep it alive artificially, then I don't think it's going to help.
So I think it is extremely important, I mean, to have regional projects. I think the regional character of NIFOS Europe, I mean, has played an essential role in how we managed to succeed so much. And so basically we're talking about, of course, we have several regions in Europe. I mean, different cultures. We also have like regions which are underperforming in research. So it is really, really important to work, I mean, to have these countries working closely and mitigating a lot of issues that appear due to this reason. So the characteristic of the region actually enabled us to create really good use cases to bring together the researchers. These will be really nice to continue. I mean, if we could have the support. And in addition, we also managed to build up, let's say, a way to make the services, I mean, at least at some level sustainable. I mean, with the cooperation of all the different stakeholders in the region. So I think it will be really important, I mean, to have these kind of efforts continuing in the future.
Thanks. I would like now to ask Diego whether he has comments to reassure you, Diego, that we are not forgetting that you are attending this.
Thank you
for your questions, but I mean, hybrid events are still not that much used.
No, I can say that also considering the size of the EOSC in terms of the EOSC initiatives, is fundamental having the possibility also to work at a national and regional level. So having collaboration that can help us that we work more on the same central tools to scale up, to have contact with a multitude of researchers, user community that can benefit from EOSC is fundamental. Both to get a requirement and then to refine the EOSC and its main services according to the real needs of the researchers, and also to get from these communities resources that can help us to enrich and make more interesting for the work for the whole community than what EOSC can offer. So I fully support that.
Thanks. Are there any other comments, Mina?
Yes, so I agree that these regional projects, they are very important, and in the Nordics we have, this is the world's oldest regional cooperation already existing, and it's on the ministerial level, and it has started in 71, and we can see that the ownership of the EOSC has increased during this project, and for the future, I think that this, like in the Nordics, the culture is the same, and it's based on trust and openness, and so this region, for example, could be like a test bed for the many pilots, for example, because so that we are like open for this kind of innovative ideas, and so that could be one thing, for example.
Yeah, I talked about it with some people in Belgium. The lack of resources and time is a bit of an obstacle, because you have these initiatives on regional level, so with a few countries, and then you have the whole European one, and then you have the things happening within your own country, and then it starts to be too much to handle. And that is the feedback that I got from in Belgium, that is an obstacle to have these different levels. It's too much in the end. So I'm not sure, because on some levels you cooperate more, like for example for Belgium with France, and on other levels more with Germany or more with the Netherlands, and it depends a bit. On the other hand, we have seen, like in projects in open air, that there are differences between regions, and it's good to handle these different questions in the regions first, before putting them on a higher level and throughout Europe. So it's definitely something that we have to keep in mind, but we have to see how it flourishes, and if the time allows it. That's what it is.
Yeah, indeed, that's a good point. Already when we started with this cross-collaboration task force with all the INPERIOS 5B projects, we had this idea to mimic the working groups or the coining board, and this already was causing a bit of an explosion of time spent into meetings, and so which proved useful, no doubt. But I mean,
if I can say as a conclusion, I mean, in our experience in EOSC-Pillar, this regional and national character helps a lot. I mean, and also looking in the name, so the regional and national initiative are the pillar of the EOSC. So I think that, continues in sharing experiences and pulling the same solution to the same problems, of course keeping in mind the differences of each region, because this it's a fact. But we learn a lot in this bilateral meeting with France, with Austria, and this was really an added value of this project. So I hope that we can continue this.
Thanks.
But if your question was if on the European level by the Commission there should be calls again, so this I mean for 23, 24 it's not foreseen. I think it's also in principle it's not foreseen for the next work program, even though we are just starting discussing this. So if some countries really want to push for that, it would be now time to gather support for that, because you would have to put in your opinion paper or your suggestion before next summer, before the Commission is drawing up the next calls or the next work program for 25 to 27. But from the logic, I think from the Commission, this was part of the beginning phase of EOS, so to gather ideas, to get communities together and to start something. And now we are moving into production phase. It will be hard, I think, to convince the Commission that it's a good idea to continue this regional projects, because they will say, well, if it was useful for you, then you should support it out of your countries.
Right. Yeah, it's in the same logic. They provide the initial seed, and then if it works, it will sustain by itself. Yes, which is also has sense. Okay, are there other questions you would like to ask our panelists or topics you would like to bring? No further comments here. Good. So I think we can close here. First of all, thanking our panelists. We are now at the end of these 3 days we spent together. Don't think we have all the answers, but this was also not the idea of this event, indeed. But we have asked ourselves a lot of questions and exchanged information on several topics. And the most important thing probably is that we finally had the chance to meet in person with real humans during sessions and outside the sessions, not with avatars or thumbnails on a screen, which was great. It is really a pity that this happened so late in the project, but I mean, given the circumstances, we couldn't do much more than this. And in fact, I think we can be proud of how we, speaking for the EOS-Pillar project, we managed to react to this and be effective, notwithstanding the complex situation. This event was very successful, in my opinion. There was, I mean, a lot of interesting talks. It was good to showcase what was done and also think a little bit ahead. We also had a very good remote attendance, and Rob told me that there were at least as many registered remote participants as we were present here, which is great. So I would like now to thank all the technical people which helped making this a success. To technical people here at the Bibliothèque, everybody contributing to organize the event, our French colleagues, so Volker for all the French colleagues, Rob for Just IT guys who managed to pamper us during these 3 days. So, yeah. Okay, so I think we can, oh yeah, please. But don't have, can you throw, okay. Thanks.
Hello, mic test.
I wanted to express my appreciation of the work done by Fulvio and Jan as in managing the technical work within the project, because you managed to create through the virtual face-to-face meetings, through a spirit, and so really people were looking forward to meeting each other. And so I think it's through this COVID-19 crisis, you managed to create links, and really you played a major role in doing that. And I think people are really happy to meet physically because they were able to build connections even remotely. So I would like to thank you for the quality of the management of the project.
Thank you very much.
And congratulate you.
Thanks. You probably took a glimpse of my last words, so my quick notes here, because indeed what I wanted to stress at the final point is that this project helped me, I think helped us in building a wealth of relationships and understandings of what are the things which matter that we can pour into the materialization of EOSC and in any other future projects in which we may be involved. So really, thanks a lot. Chances are that we can meet some of you in Prague, otherwise at Majora. Thanks again.
Let me just give some. Yes, indeed. Right. So that brings us to the end of the conference and finally lunch. Actually, also, I wanted to check just really closely. How many? Do we know how many General Assembly members will be present?
Because there was some last minute changes also. So I have no idea.
Okay, because we might have a change in the venue for the GA, but it's either within here or within the area. So we will, something like that. Well, we'll inform you. But in any case, I think you'll all be with us during lunch. So just for your information, the lunch is in a place, as I mentioned earlier, at Human, which is just a few minutes walk. Maybe to give, so basically as we exit the BNF, so we go towards the corner, cross the street, and just for information, so as soon so that I can show you how we get there. So this is the BNF. We get out from, can we have the screen sharing? Let me just duplicate my screen. Okay, so this is the BNF. Let me go out again. So basically, this is where we are. It's in Human. I'm going to show you as soon as, so pretend we get out from the BNF towards this corner. So just a reminder again, that's the BNF. We go towards this stoplight, and then basically we cross this walkable path. And then through here, there's a stairs that takes us down. And from here, we have Human, this place. Yes. So apparently I'm told it's a healthy eating place. So I think maybe we can recover a bit of our health after our wonderful catering experiences throughout the conference. So yes, so I'll see you there. And yes, as I mentioned earlier, the dissemination material is free for you to pick up. And indeed, just as Fulvio mentioned, we will be at the EOSC Symposium. So please do stop by at the EOSC regional booth. So one of our examples of collaboration still ongoing. So I'll see you there. Thanks, everyone, and see you at the next opportunity. Yes. Yeah. Actually, for those that will be staying for the General Assembly, can we gather here for a second, just because maybe we can talk about it really quickly? Yes, it will be at 2.
Yeah, they expect it to be at 2, so I'm just sending out the URL for the room.
Déjà existant. C'est très rare que j'utilise des premières mains. Pour un archéologue de terrain, une donnée de terrain, c'est ce qu'il transcrit immédiatement sous une forme ou sous une autre. Mais dans certains cas, des résultats déjà traités préalablement peuvent redevenir des données.
Les publications sont des données dans le sens qu'on peut les classer avec des données, on peut les cataloguer, on peut les étudier, mais ce qu'on met dans les publications sont des données.
Dans le domaine plus particulier des statistiques dans lequel je travaille moi, une donnée, c'est observer un phénomène dans le temps ou pas, dans l'espace ou pas, de s'intéresser, je sais pas, à l'âge, au salaire, à la composition d'un réseau social à un moment donné dans le temps, ça fait aussi une donnée.
C'est la manière de rendre compte d'observations qui sont réalisées sur le terrain, qui sont toujours des observations qui rendent compte d'objets complexes qu'il faut réussir à construire sous une forme qui est transmissible à la communauté scientifique.
Quand je mets ma casquette humanité numérique, la donnée, c'est beaucoup plus vaste. C'est aussi observer ce que mes collègues font. C'est aussi un site web, c'est le schéma des données, c'est aussi l'utilisation d'un particulier logiciel et comment on utilise un logiciel, c'est une donnée. Et la chaîne éditoriale, c'est une donnée.
Et les métadonnées, finalement, c'est aussi des données, donc on renseigne la façon dont sont produites les données, dont on peut utiliser ces données.
Ce passage à la donnée numérique, ça oblige à se poser vraiment des questions sur la manière déjà dont on formalise l'information.
Un ensemble de données, ça va être un tableur Excel dans lequel on a des valeurs, essentiellement des valeurs numériques ou des valeurs nominales, puis par extension, sur tout ce qui est numérisable, on travaille sur des images, sur du son.
L'utilisation d'orthophotos réalisées en drone va permettre de suivre l'évolution de la recherche sur le terrain et va faciliter la documentation sur le terrain. C'est un gain de temps aussi considérable avec des images en très haute résolution.
Dans mon cas, les données vont être principalement textuelles. La donnée va se placer à différents niveaux, soit au niveau le plus bas, on va dire, qui est pour moi celui du mot, et parfois je peux aller jusqu'au niveau du texte en entier qui va constituer la donnée.
Dans mon champ expérimental, qui quand même touche de très près au corpus linguistique, une donnée, c'est un texte. Ce texte doit être proposé à la lecture.
En anthropologie historique, des langues amérindiennes, le mot, les morphèmes, la phrase et le souffle. Ce sont mes données de base que je vais traduire et je vais essayer de voir l'effet de signification d'un même mot dans différents contextes phrastiques, de paragraphes, de textes, de situations historiques.
Donc des données, on en est entouré. Et après, suivant les casquettes, suivant les métiers et les activités qu'on a, on va les traiter, on va les considérer différemment.
La donnée, c'est un domaine très très vaste et très vague. Et c'est pas facile à définir.
Political scientist, I'm already working for almost 10 years in the area of open science. We are collecting research data and making those available as a public good. Open science gives society a direct access to knowledge, and knowledge is, as you know, power, and power should be as evenly distributed as possible in a democratic society. An example of an open science project that we are currently working on is the Austrian Corona Panel project. In the project, we are collecting survey data on the impact of the corona crisis. We make the results and the data available to political decision makers as well as to citizens. And the results are verifiable for everyone. And in this way, we contribute to a knowledge-based and democratic way of crisis management.
Open science occupies me in my everyday working life in the context of higher education. I work for Open Education Austria Advanced, which is a project to promote open educational resources, or shortly OER. Open science and open education open the access to knowledge to everybody. And the open educational resources are a key factor in that process. They promote the exchange of ideas and can help coming up with new ideas. Higher education can be shaped jointly and transparently, and therefore the access to knowledge can be opened up for everybody. Within our project, among other things, we develop a specialist portal for these open educational resources. The open educational resources can be shared, uploaded and downloaded, and therefore can reach a large number of students way beyond lecture halls or national borders.
As manager of a data archive, I work on providing the infrastructure for open science.
to collect, to curate, and to make available research data, so that researchers, but also the public, can find and reuse data. The collection of data is very time-consuming and expensive, and the problem is that data is only often used for one research question or for one project. And through the movement of open science, we can make this data available and make it possible for much more information to be extracted from the data and to benefit society. Open science also means that the research process is transparent and public, and that the data that form the basis of political decisions are open to everybody. A dataset that is very important to researchers, politics, but also in general the public, is the microcensus. So this is data on, for example, employment or education in the Austrian population. This data is very rich and very extensive and can be used for many projects and many research questions. Through the movement of open science, we can make this data available for researchers free of charge, and ultimately this benefits society again.
Open science is transforming research, teaching, studying, and science in general. Open science means that we jointly develop and exchange knowledge, and that knowledge becomes even more accessible. Open science fosters that we jointly develop and exchange knowledge for the benefit of everybody. You can benefit from this opening either directly by participating in the production of scientific results, or indirectly because we incorporate such scientific findings into science, economy, culture, or society in general, for the better of everybody.
EOSC is being implemented as an open, reliable ecosystem for research, which allows sharing of services and research outputs across different user communities, so as to increase their visibility and their composition with other resources. How can you share your resources and enable composability with other resources? By making them available through the onboarding into one of the EOSC portal recognized catalogs, and by publishing into the associated marketplaces, which interoperate in the EOSC ecosystem. In this video, we are using the EOSC portal as an example for the onboarding process. The EOSC-Pillar project supports the onboarding of services into the EOSC portal catalog in close cooperation with the EOSC flagship project, EOSC Future. The resources made available through the EOSC catalogs and marketplaces are reliable and robust. This is one of the added values of the EOSC ecosystem. How can the EOSC ecosystem ensure reliability and robustness? During the onboarding process, resources are assessed against inclusion criteria derived by the EOSC rules of participation. The evolution of the ROPS is discussed and